Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel Living in Canada. In today's video, I want to answer the question of whether or not lab tests, including blood tests, are covered by OHIP or the Ontario Health Insurance Plan or not. And to answer this question, there are two important things that I want to talk about. And this will be interesting to those of you who are new here in Canada, specifically Ontario, especially to those of you who are still overseas and are perhaps considering whether or not to immigrate to Canada and perhaps just want to know a bit more about the healthcare system. But a big disclaimer up front, I am not an expert on OHIP, not at all. So my goal here is just to share with you my personal experience in the hopes that this might be useful to you. But before I start, first of all, a big welcome to all those of you who are new here. This is my second channel, Living in Canada, and on this channel I make videos related to studying, working, traveling, shopping groceries here in Canada, and basically tips, advice, and sharing experiences with you that might be helpful, especially if you're new here in Canada, especially Toronto, where I'm currently living in. And my other channel is called the Multiple Careers channel, and on that channel I talk all about how you can build a fulfilling and meaningful career, career advice, and so on. So if that's something that's interesting to you, I will leave the link down in the descriptions below, and I'd be really happy if you visit me over there on the other channel. So let's get right into it. Let's answer the question whether or not lab tests, blood tests are covered by OHIP or not. The first thing that you need to know is that the answer is yes. In general, most tests are covered by OHIP, but as usual, there are always exceptions. And what I actually read on the government's website, which is health.gov.on.ontario.ca, it says that OHIP funds all lab diagnostic tests that are medically necessary. What is actually medically necessary or not, of course, it depends on your condition. So if you want to know for sure whether or not the test that you want to take is covered by OHIP or not, then I would recommend you to talk to your doctor, because here we're getting to the second point. The other really important thing is also that the lab tests, the blood work and so on, will only be covered if there is a requisition from your doctor. So in case you're not familiar yet with what a requisition is, I wasn't when I first arrived here. So a requisition in common terms is basically like an instruction or an order that your doctor releases. It's a piece of paper which basically has all your details and the tests that your doctor says you need to take, and you need to take this requisition form to any of the labs where you want to take your test at, and you need to present them with this requisition letter, and only then, if that particular test is covered under OHIP, only then, if you have that requisition letter with you, will it actually be covered by OHIP. And usually, in most cases, at least from what I've experienced going to 2 different labs, you do not need to pay anything up front. So you just present the lab with your OHIP card, the valid OHIP card, and the requisition form. And in most cases, you can either upload the requisition form in advance, or you can just bring the print out to the lab, and then you won't need to pay anything. But just briefly going back to those tests that you do need to pay for on your own. So there are sometimes tests, although they are ordered by your doctor, that you still need to pay for because they are not covered by OHIP. So one example that I recently had was that my doctor asked me to do a vitamin D test, and I realized that that was not covered by OHIP. It cost about between $30 to $40. So I went to one of the labs and I brought my requisition, they did the test, but I did need to pay those, I think $39 or so. Yeah, so that's something that's important to know. So especially if you have some kind of health condition that requires you to do regular tests, then I think it's worth it to check in advance whether or not it's covered by OHIP. And in case you're coming here as a worker, then I think it's less of an issue, because in many cases you will get your private health insurance from your employer, and in many cases that insurance plan will cover a lot of lab tests. But again, there are always rules and exceptions to what is covered or not, so just to make sure that you're not suddenly surprised by this huge bill, it's always better to just call up your insurance and ask them in advance whether or not they cover these tests, and also give the lab a call and ask them how much it costs. Yeah, and the last thing that I also want to note here is that if you go to a lab and just want to do a test on your own, let's just say that you are curious about your vitamin D levels, but your doctor hasn't instructed you to do that, then you will definitely need to pay out of your own pocket. Yeah, so I hope that was useful to you. There will be a follow-up video to this where I talk about 2 different labs that I went to and my experiences with them, and I will give you a recommendation for which lab to go to, or maybe let's better say I will let you know what my personal preference was, and I will also give you some tips in that video how to prepare so that your lab visit will go smoothly and that you don't waste any time. Okay, thank you guys for watching. I hope you have an awesome day. Stay safe and see you again soon.